Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I am glad you made it. We have a special guest here, Representative Buddy Carter, United States Congress. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on, sir. Thank you so much for making the time. I know we have a limited amount of time, so I just wanted to head this off with this kind of idea. I wanted to talk about veteran-specific issues, whether it be VA, accessing benefits, survivors, dependents, the Major Richard Starr Act, which I know that you're a strong supporter of. I wanted you to just kind of highlight a little bit about what you've done and what you're working on for the folks out there, if you will. Thank you so much again for making it on. I appreciate you, sir.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate it very much, Jason. Veteran issues are very important to me. I have the honor and privilege of representing the 1st Congressional District of Georgia, which includes Fort Stewart Army Base, the largest Army base east of the Mississippi. It includes Hunter Army Airfield. It includes Kings Bay Naval Base. And also we have a number of 2 Coast Guard stations. So we're very blessed to have a strong military presence in our district. And we have a lot of veterans in our district. In fact, I think we have one of the highest veteran populations of any district in the country. And that's kind of what you would expect whenever you're home to such great facilities such as Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield and Kings Bay. Plus you have the quality of life that we have in Southeast Georgia and the coast of Georgia. So we have a large veterans population. Just to begin, let me say that I didn't have the honor of serving in our military. So my honor is to serve those who did serve in the military. And I certainly take that very seriously, because I would submit to you that we would not be enjoying the freedoms that we enjoy in this country if it were not for the service and the sacrifice of those who have served in our military. And we should never lose sight of that. And I don't lose sight of that. But we've got a lot going on in the way of what we're doing in Congress and trying to improve the lives of our veterans. And certainly no better example than what we just passed in the appropriations bill for VA and MilCon and for the Department of Defense. That was very important. Particularly important for my district and for the 1st District of Georgia. $474 million that went to the Compass Call aircraft that's procured through Gulfstream. Gulfstream is the largest private employer in the state of Georgia, and it's in our district. And we're very fortunate to have them, and very fortunate for the work that they do with the Department of Defense. Also, full funding for 2 Virginia-class submarines at Kings Bay, as well as for 1 Columbia-class submarine at Kings Bay. That's very important. Very important, obviously, for our military. Very important for our economy in the 1st District.
Yes.
Let's not forget that as well. It is
absolutely. Yeah, one of the things I want to throw out there, Congressman, is that sometimes people lose sight, which you have not, lose sight on the dramatic impact that the military has on the community. And that's why I'm a firm believer, and I know you are too, about creating that value years ahead of time before a BRAC can come and dismantle your whole economy in a matter of minutes. We've seen it happen in California, where things just, Fort Ord, gone. And, it's just a ripple effect that happens. So I love that you're leaning forward on that. That is an outstanding mindset to have, sir.
Well, thank you. And it is important. And obviously we welcome it in our district. And certainly we're cognitive of that. And I will tell you, I would be remiss if I did not mention 2 areas in our district specifically. First of all, Hinesville and Liberty County. I would submit to you that, we got great military communities in our country that support our military. But Hinesville, Liberty County, I would submit to you that they are one of the most supportive communities of our military anywhere in the country. I'm so proud of the way that they have welcomed our military and the way that they continue to support our military. It's so very important, particularly when those troops are deployed, and particularly when the families are there by themselves. I mean, the whole community just pulls together. And then Kings Bay and Camden County and Kingsland and St. Mary's in that area, beautiful area. And they are the same way. They are so supportive of our military. And as you point out, and rightfully so, there are a lot of non-military jobs that are dependent on what's happening at those bases. So we don't lose sight of that by any stretch of the imagination. So we're very thankful for that. But as I say, in the Department of Defense and the VA MILCON bill, we had a lot of good wins for the first district and for our military bases and for our veterans, because it does address a number of issues for our veterans that are important to our veterans, important to the president. One of the things that he has really set his sights on is doing something about veteran homelessness. No veteran should be homeless in this country. And he has really made that one of his priorities. And I'm so proud of that. And I applaud the president for his efforts there. But he's done that. And we're investing in the new bridging rental assistance for veteran empowerment program, which is vitally important. One of the president's initiatives, as I say, and that's very important.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that we think about here is that the military focus transcends into veteran focus, and there's this natural, obviously, connection, be it community, be it funding. Even though funding gets directed toward the military, it creates a better opportunity for the service member, and then helps them in their transition into civilian life as well. One of the things that you recently introduced was the I forget the full name, and you please forgive me, the Stamp Act. And it's these innovative ways, and I want you to talk about it a little bit, because sometimes people, I think, out there think it's as easy as let's just draft out a piece of legislation to throw some money over here. It's not always that easy, because the money has to come from somewhere. So there's a lot of arm wrestling that's going on behind the scenes. This is a very innovative way, I believe, in order to really help support veterans by this piece of legislation. So I'd love for you to just give a little highlight on how this is and how it works.
Well, first of all, you're exactly right. This is very important. And thank you for recognizing that the money doesn't grow on trees in Washington, D.C. We got to figure out how we're going to fund some of these projects, even though they're great projects and need to be funded. And the Veteran Stamp Act is going to create a fundraising stamp through the U.S. Postal Service that will support veterans' health care. Now, why is that important to me? Professionally, I'm a pharmacist, so obviously health care is very important to me. I've had the honor of serving many of our veterans in their prescription needs throughout the years. And that's something that I've always been honored to do. And healthcare is extremely important, but particularly for our veterans, because that's one of the things that we promised them and that we need to deliver on. And the Veteran Stamp Act, again, it'll simply be, the proceeds of it will go toward helping with veterans' healthcare.
It's just such a smart way to help drive more benefits into the veteran healthcare administration, and not have to go ask for money for it. It's a makes sense, easy to kick over the finish line with immediate impacts. And my position on this is that once this goes through, which I hope it should, that that's what we do as veterans, is when we go to the post office, we make sure that we get those specific stamps. And it's about awareness, right? You see all these different stamps. There is a difference. Pick the right one. Right.
That's right. That's exactly right. Thank you.
Yeah. So on this note of healthcare, let's talk a minute about, and I'm gonna frame it up a little bit for you here. Community care. Now, from the healthcare perspective, the way I look at this, and please correct me if I'm way off base. We have a gigantic VA healthcare system. And that's great. And we have all these clinics, and that's great. The problem is that they're stuck in one spot, and veterans move. Veterans move around. They're constantly changing where they live. Things happen. And so in some cases, the supply and demand, if you will, for a specific clinic might not be in line with what it needs to be. Or you might have a group of veterans that live 2 hours away, and there's not enough there to actually build a clinic. So community care is that dovetailed piece, in my opinion, that is a must-have. this isn't a negotiable thing, in my opinion. I don't think that there should not be community care. I think absolutely it has to be there to bridge that gap and allow for veterans. I'm going to throw a quick little fast little story. I went to the VA clinic. Doctor said, take off your shirt. He said, that mole looks funny and that mole looks funny. I want you to go get those checked out. You're going to have to drive 2 hours to go to the medical center. Well, I got a lot of things going on in my life right now, and can I do it a little closer to home? Yeah, we'll put you in for community care. We were able to do that. And thank goodness we recently changed the procedures for that and cut out a bunch of red tape. So that process went faster as well. And now I went and now I got all cut up. So now here I am with a bunch of cuts. But, you know, hey, it sped up the cuts. It's better a biopsy than an autopsy is what I say. So back to you on your ideas of community care.
Well, community care is extremely important. And you bring up a good fact, particularly, you know, look, we say in Georgia, there are two Georgias. There's Atlanta and there's everywhere else. And, you know, I represent South Georgia. That's everywhere else. A lot of rural areas, a lot of time travel. And you're exactly right. It's not always easy to get to a clinic, or it's not always timely to get to a clinic that offers the services that you need. That's why we passed, and that's why we have created a pilot program as part of the Recovery Act. It's a $20 million pilot program that supports nonprofit outpatient mental health clinics. This is extremely important. I'm very proud of the fact, and I was there at the ribbon cutting for the Cohen Center, the Centerstone Cohen Veterans Network Clinic that was founded in Hinesville, Georgia. And I am so proud of that clinic. Steve Cohen, who is owner of the New York Mets, is the one who funded that and has done an outstanding job with those clinics. We're fortunate to have that clinic in Hinesville, Georgia. And, you know, we need to pay close attention to the mental health needs of all Americans, but particularly of our veterans. It's such a, you know, it's not an easy transition. It's not. I was out at Fort Stewart last week. General Chris Norrie is in a change of command, and he's leaving, going to Germany. We got a new commanding general in now, and you know, we're excited about that. But General Norrie's done such a wonderful job, just an outstanding job. We hate to lose him, but then we understand, and we're able to replace him with great quality. But to have that facility again, the Centerstone Cohen's mental facility, that's a big win for our community.
That's great. That's great. And so I think that the idea here is it's about making the VA better with healthcare while also incorporating other options through community care for veterans. And bridging that gap, this is kind of a side piece, I'm just throwing this out there to get a head nod anyway, is connecting the systems between DOD and VA. It's so cumbersome and so, you know, butting heads, if you will, to pull the data from your DOD records into the VA system. And I know that it's a process. It's a gigantic ship to turn. I do not, by the way, envy Secretary Collins at all. In the shoes that he's in, it's a big ship, and it's got a lot of work to do. So Godspeed for him, and I hope that he can do the best that he can. I do have another question, actually a couple more for you real quick.
Sure. Let's
talk about the Richard Starr Act. Okay. We talked about how money doesn't grow on trees in Washington, D.C., as much as we would love for it to. But we're also, I think, in this, it's almost a dilemma with the Richard Starr Act. It's going to cost money, yes, but it is absolutely the right thing to do, because it's embarrassing, actually, that we have medically retired, not medically discharged, medically retired, whole different world, receiving a retirement check saying, hey, your service is good, but we can't keep you on board anymore. We're going to medically retire you. And then they're getting penalized on the disability compensation side, which makes zero sense. And in my opinion, I think it was an oversight with the original legislation that helped to take care of the retirees with 20 plus years to be able to receive both with the 50%, all that stuff. I think somebody just kind of missed that piece of the medically retired person. what are your, I know you've co-sponsored the previous one, you've co-sponsored this one, you're obviously an advocate. I want two things from you, Congressman. One, I want, why is this thing so important to you? And two, look, we're talking to people all over the country. What can they do if they support this legislation? What should they do, right? Should they, what can they do to help kick it down the road further over the finish line?
Great question. Before I answer it, if you would give me just a moment of personal privilege here. You mentioned Secretary Collins. Doug Collins is a good friend of mine. We served together in the Georgia House of Representatives, and you're right. He's got a momentous task ahead of him with the VA, but he is up to it. I can assure you, I can think of no one better to handle that situation than Doug Collins. He's one of the finest fellows I know. He is a veteran himself. And he's going to do an outstanding job as the Secretary of the VA. Now, to your point about the Richard Starr Act, something that you mentioned just a second ago, you said it's not fair. And you're exactly right. It's not fair. It is a wrong that needs to be righted, and we need to right it. Yes, it's going to cost money, but when you have a wrong that needs to be righted, particularly when it addresses a veteran, then we need to get it straight. And that's why we need to get this straight. This is going to impact about 42,000 veterans, and it's going to be very important. And as you say, they are medically retired and medically discharged. I mean, there's a big difference there. And that's why we need to make sure that they have the coverage that they deserve, because they've done their part and they deserve this. And that's why the Richard Starr Act is so important. Now, the third part that I want to address here is I think just a very important part, and that's advocacy. What can veterans do? They can call their members of Congress and they can say, hey, you need to support this. This is a wrong that needs to be righted, and you need to support it. That's so very important. Let me assure you that when we get a phone call from constituents, but particularly from veterans, that we do listen to it. Keep in mind that Congress is a citizen legislature. You know, I'm a pharmacist. We've got pharmacists, we've got urologists, we've got new car salesmen, farmers, way too many lawyers. But, you know, we have quite a few veterans, but we have quite a few who have not served, like myself, who need to be educated. That's where your role as a veteran comes in. And that's where your responsibility as a veteran comes in, and as a citizen.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. One of the things that I say all the time is, look, there's many different avenues in which you can express your desire to have something passed, right? Your support. You can show up in person, talk to a staffer. You can make a phone call. If you don't want to talk to anybody, call after hours, leave a message, send an email. You can do any of those things for your congressional representative's office and let them know in any one of those ways, and the word will get there, I assure you. And imagine if for 1 minute, it wasn't just you, it was 1,000 other people in your constituency all making that same phone call. I guarantee you the alarm bells are going to go off that this is an important issue for the constituency. I think that for veterans, we're represented fairly well in DC by the veteran service organizations. They're running the hallways and all that good stuff, which I used to do at the state level. So I get it. I think we're there. I think that on the constituency side, in the backyard, I think that we need to do our part a little bit better. I think that there's a lot of groups out there that are loud. We're not necessarily the loud group, because I think pride kind of gets in the way a little bit for that. So I think that we need to voice our support for things when we see them come up, and we need to give our thoughts as well. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, Congressman. Last thing here, because I know you're limited on time, and I really do appreciate you. I think we're already over a little bit, but I have seen in the news that you have thrown your hat in the ring to transition from the House of Representatives to the Senate. So you've entered the race. What would that mean for you, and what would it mean for you carrying the torch for veterans and the military?
Well, first of all, it's been an honor and a pleasure to represent the 1st Congressional District of Georgia. And we're going to continue to sprint through the finish line and do a great job in representing them. But look, in the Senate, it is different. And you do have the ability and the opportunity to have a little more influence. And I think that's going to be important. It's going to be important for healthcare in America. Being a pharmacist, obviously my focus is healthcare. It's going to be important for conservatism as well. I would submit to you that of all the candidates in this race for the United States Senate in Georgia, that our record is the most conservative record. I've been in Congress now. This is my 11th year. I supported President Trump all through the first term. I've supported him and his America First policies, making sure that we're securing our border, making sure that we're having energy dominance, making sure that we're keeping our nation safe, cutting off the flow of illegal drugs from that border that's infesting our communities and killing and poisoning our citizens. All of that is vitally important. And we need a senator in Georgia who is going to take those values, Georgia values, to the United States Senate and support President Trump and his America First policies.
And just like that. So, sir, I appreciate you very much for making it on. I know we went over time a little bit, and I do appreciate your willingness to talk about veteran issues, military issues, helping to support the military and the veterans every single day. I do appreciate it. And I'm going to say this on here on the recording that I will make sure that my information obviously is out to your staffers, but please put me in your phone. If you need anything, if you want to come on the channel again, please feel free, and we will be happy to have you. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it very much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.